In this video, we're going to talk about the Giants maybe making a trade for one of these fifth-year guys that got declined contracts, and this video starts right now. Recently, many teams had to make several decisions on players with their fifth-year options for the 2024 season. Several players like Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert were extremely easy decisions to make, like the New York Giants did with Andrew Thomas, picking up his fifth-year option for $14.1 million. However, there were several players who weren't so fortunate, as they had their fifth-year option declined. There's a long list, and as football fans talking quite a bit about things. I'm just going to read you a couple players here. 14 players officially had their fifth-year options declined. Chase Young, Isaiah Simmons, C.J. Henderson, Mekhi Becton, Austin Jackson, and a lot of other players. The irony from this was the Washington Commanders were deemed the team to win the Chase Young sweepstakes when they landed the number 2 overall pick and went with the star pass rusher, a player that at the time many Giants fans were hoping for, and instead dropped to number 4 with Thomas. Fast forward to 3 years later, and Thomas is the one getting the fifth-year option, and Young is the one potentially on his way out of Washington. A year ago, after his fifth-year option was declined by the Giants, some wondered about the future of Daniel Jones, but he responded with a season that helped guide the Giants to their first postseason berth since 2016. Danny Dimes earned a 4-year, $160 million contract, which he earned by the fact that how well he played. He played really well. A lot of people thought that he should have gotten quite a few MVP votes by just due to the fact of how well he played. Well, with all that said, some of the players who are listed here that I'm going to talk about might not be in their team's future plans, and if certain teams fall out of playoff races, some of these players could become potential trade chips for a team like the New York Giants. Ravens linebacker Patrick Queen. This one stands out a lot because of the previous connection with Patrick Queen and Giants defensive coordinator Wink Martindale. Martindale was the former Ravens defensive coordinator for Queen in his first 2 seasons before heading to East Rutherford. Queen knows the defensive system that Martindale runs and had success in it during the first 2 seasons of his career. Given the fact that the Giants have a question mark at the other middle linebacker spot next to Bobby Okereke, Queen is a very intriguing option if the Ravens were to consider moving him after drafting Trenton Simpson and adding Rogaine Smith last year. In his first 3 seasons with the Ravens, Queen has been a solid player as he's had 106, 98, 117 total tackles in each season with 10 total sacks. His career high was in 2022 with 5. Queen also had 2 interceptions and 2 fumble recoveries for the Ravens in 2022. At the moment, Jared Davis is penciled in as the other starter next to Okereke. Sorry, forgive my pronunciation of some of the players' names. In Martindale's 3-4 defense. Before Davis, it was Jayon Smith who seemed to fall out of favor at the end of the year. A reunion of Queen with Martindale and East Rutherford is pressure-packed defense, and his pressure-packed defense could be something to look for if the fourth-year veteran is unhappy in Baltimore at all. Carolina Panthers cornerback C.J. Henderson. One of the areas the Giants focused on in the NFL draft was the secondary. Given the amount of solid wide receivers that the Giants defense will be tasked with to try and stop, it makes sense for them to get as much secondary help as possible for 2023. The Giants took Ty Banks, he wants to be known as Ty Banks, not Deontay, in the first round and added another cornerback in the later rounds with Trey Hawkins III. But if the Giants were ever looking to bolster the secondary and potentially buy on a player who could be on their way out, C.J. Henderson might be an option. Henderson was initially the Jaguars' first-round pick, but he was moved to the Carolina Panthers a couple of seasons ago and acquired by a regime that is no longer there in Carolina. If the Panthers are traded up to acquire the first pick, go through any struggles in 23, Henderson could be a possible trade target if the Giants need additional help at corner. In 17 games for the Panthers in 2022, Henderson had 58 total sacks with 2 interceptions and 6 pass deflections. Given how depleted the Giants' secondary was at times when Adoree Jackson was dealing with injuries, additional secondary help can always be beneficial, even with the additional players in the draft with Banks and Hawkins. Seahawks linebacker Jordan Brooks. The Seahawks declining Brooks' fifth-year option was a bit surprising, especially coming off the season he had in 2022. In 16 games, Brooks had 161 total tackles for Seattle with a sack. Yet, they declined the option that would have paid him $12.72 million for 2024. For a tackling machine, Ed Brooks, who's coming off that kind of season with the Seahawks, plus a year in 21 where he had 184 total tackles, and it's a complete shock to see that they decided to decline their former first-round pick's option, especially when he's only 25 and just entering the prime of his career. Seattle's expected to contend again for a playoff spot like they did in 22, so them being sellers might not make sense right away. But if Seattle struggles and looks to move a few players, then Brooks might be a very attractive option. Or if Brooks has any grumbling with the Seahawks between now and the start of the regular season, that could be a time when Brooks could be moved for draft picks. And if that is the case, that could be where Joe Shane could look to pounce. Arizona Cardinals linebacker Isaiah Simmons. Heading into the 2022 NFL Draft, a lot of people liked the Giants for Isaiah Simmons. After they took Andrew Thomas, Simmons dropped a few spots later to the Cardinals. Simmons has been a decent player for the Cardinals, but there are some who think he could benefit from a change of scenery and benefit from better coaching. This includes former Giants linebacker and current radio analyst Carl Banks. Here's what the Big Blue legend had to say. Isaiah Simmons, who I loved out of college, real enigma, so talented yet so limited, good in space, in pass defense, in the box looks very uncomfortable versus the run. He's not effective for his physical traits. As a blitzer, better off edge, not special. Needs better coaching, needs coaching bad. What better coach to unlock and unleash Simmons' potential as a defensive player than Martindale, who brought out several Giants players' attributes on defense and made them better in 2022. No better example of that is Dexter Lawrence, whose game transformed from a pretty good player into one of the best interior defensive linemen in football. He was just rewarded with a 4-year, $90 million contract for it. There's no guarantees that Simmons will make the career jump that Lawrence did, but if he's available and it doesn't cost much, it can't hurt to inquire and explore a price tag. The Cardinals are not expected to compete in 2023, and given that the team is now under a new regime, he might be someone who could intrigue the Giants, especially if Arizona isn't looking to help ask a lot in return. Imagine if the Giants could end up with both Thomas and Simmons, the two players most wanted by fans for the Giants to land from the 2020 NFL Draft. It would make for an ideal scenario, especially if Mr. Simmons, were able to become the player most sought heading into his rookie year of 2020. Well, I hope you liked this video, and of course, please subscribe to the Football Hut. Football Hut's doing really well, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch. And of course, there'll be live streams coming up very shortly. And thank you. Have a good day, and I'll see you later.